Chapter 668. Qin Mayan came to visit, her life was indeed saved. But the estate physician said her face and body were ruined, the old steward said. Suing Xue nodded. Yes, she deserved it. As a woman, speaking like this was unavoidably cold, but Chu Yihan felt she was admirable. Those who reap what they sow need no sympathy, he said. Of course, human emotions are precious and shouldn't be wasted on unnecessary people, Suing Xue said, linking arms with Chu Yihan. Together, they had dinner before hurrying back to Qilin Garden. On the carriage back to the Marquis Manor, Su Miaoyan sighed lightly, holding her small face. I'm glad sister didn't forget to pick me up. Suing Xue pinched her nose. I could never forget you. But from what one see, you're enjoying yourself in Qilin Garden too. Of course, with a handsome brother to look at, and the 9th prince to play with. Su Miaoyan had an innocent expression. In her world, being good-looking and having fun was enough to make her happy. However, she felt a little guilty for standing Chu Jinling up today. I was supposed to fly kites with the 9th prince this afternoon. He had already prepared the kites, but handsome brother's health is fragile, so he couldn't risk being out in the wind, and we ended up practicing calligraphy instead. He can't risk the wind. Suing Xue scoffed. My medical advice was for him to get plenty of sun and exercise. Why was he so delicate? But handsome brother keeps coughing. Su Miaoyan's eyes widened. Suing Xue found it odd. Xiao Yu rarely coughed when he was with her, and he took medicine more efficiently than eating. Was there something in Su Miaoyan's constitution that caused Xiao Yu to be sensitive to the wind? Seeing Xiao Yu coughing, Suing Xue thought maybe Su Miaoyan should spend less time with Xiao Yu and more with Chu Jinling to nurture her innocence. The next day, when Suing Xue was about to take Su Miaoyan to Qilin Garden as usual, Zhilong came to inform her. Miss, there's a visitor. The master wants you in the front hall. Who is it? Scarlet Flame King. Qin Mayan. Suing Xue frowned. She didn't expect Qin Mayan to still be in the Great Wei dynasty. Was he planning to stay in Jiangdu City? In the front hall, before Suing Xue could approach, she heard the two men laughing heartily. In the Battle of Yuehu City, one truly admired the old general's tactics. If it were me, I might have died on the battlefield. Ah, that's not necessarily true. When Yuehu City was besieged, although the situation was dire, if I could manage, you might too. This young man has the vigor of youth, he might find another way out. Su Qingji was all smiles as he stroked his beard. Come, let me drink to the Scarlet Flame King. Qin Mayan raised his glass and downed it with Su Qingji. Grandpa, are you drinking? Suing Xue was amazed as she entered. It was broad daylight, and her grandfather and Qin Mayan had set up a table in the front hall, and were drinking. Suing Xue glanced at the empty jars beside their feet. Seriously? Drinking during the day and getting excited? Xue, you're here. Qin Mayan walked over, and a scent of alcohol wafted over her. Combined with his rugged features, he exuded a mix of masculinity and pride. Although he was drinking during the day, it had to be said that some people looked good even when drinking. Moreover, Qin Mayan was always magnanimous and unconstrained, even asking Suing Xue if she wanted to join them. Suing Xue shook her head. Your Highness, I can't handle my liquor well. Besides, I still have a patient to treat today. Of course, she couldn't criticize her grandfather and Qin Mayan for drinking. She could only kindly remind her grandfather. Grandpa, you should be careful with your drinking. Don't drink too much. Chapter 669. Qin Mayan came to propose. I know. Grandpa knows you're a good doctor. I'll listen to you and not drink too much. These 2 jars are already finished, forget it. Su Qingzi's flushed face lit up with a bright smile. Goodness. 2 jars finished just like that. Suing Xue didn't know how Qin Mayan managed to make her grandpa drink with him so happily on their first meeting. But as long as her grandpa was happy, that was all that mattered. Suing Xue stepped forward to report. Grandpa. Today I still need to go to Qilin Garden to see young Master Xiao. I'll have to trouble you to entertain the Scarlet Flame King. Qin Mayan saw Suing Xue about to leave, and quickly stood up. Xue, are you making a house call? Suing Xue nodded. Yes, the Xiao family and noble consort Xiao asked me to treat young Master Xiao, and I agreed. Furthermore, I still have some cooperation with young Master Xiao that needs to be discussed in detail. One can't entertain your highness today, so please forgive me. But one came today because one have something important to discuss with Miss Su and General Su. Qin Mayan's eyes were sincere. Despite being somewhat drunk, he exuded an even more heroic aura. Yingxue, you don't need to go out today. Young Master Xiao has already sent someone to inform us that he will personally come to the Marquis Manor this afternoon. Su Qingji instructed her. Before young Master Xiao arrives, please entertain the Scarlet Flame King first. A trace of doubt flashed across Su Yingxue's eyes. Why did Xiao Yu come to the Marquis Manor for no reason? Coincidentally, was Qin Mayan also here today? Su Yingxue thought that it was meaningless to think too much now. When Xiao Yu arrived, she would know what he was up to. She asked Qin Mayan if he wanted to arrange a room to rest. Qin Mayan said it was not necessary. He wanted to take a walk in the Marquis Manor. Su Yingxue then led him around the Marquis Manor. The architecture of the Marquis Manor was grand and majestic. The pavilions, towers, and houses were all tall and wide. Even the gardens were mostly composed of fake mountain forests rather than flowers. Qin Mayan and Su Yingxue passed through the stone door and walked to a place with a wide view. A waterfall flowed down, and the deafening sound made one's blood boil. Qin Mayan felt a surge of hot blood in his chest. Su Yingxue was about to introduce it to him. This waterfall is an imitation of Qingtai Mutin. Yingxue, I've come today to propose marriage to you. He grabbed Su Yingxue's hand and interrupted her. His bright eyes stared at Su Yingxue with a blazing flame that seemed ready to consume everything. Su Yingxue's hand, which he was holding, felt as if it were on fire. She quickly broke free from Qin Mayan. Your Highness, let go of me. I won't let go. Su Yingxue, I'm fond of you and want to marry you as my princess. Are you willing to marry me? Qin Mayan was very sincere. If it were anyone else, Su Yingxue might have considered him a lecher and given him a good beating. However, she couldn't do that to Qin Mayan. But she firmly rejected Qin Mayan. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I don't want to marry you. One have someone in my heart. Chuihan. Yes. Su Yingxue answered frankly. She didn't need to hide it anymore. Since she had already made up her mind to marry Chuihan, she had to be firm. But one asked old General Su. He said he did not agree to your marriage. I still have a chance. Qin Mayan was very serious. Su Yingxue didn't know what her grandpa had told Qin Mayan, but that was her thought. I will only marry the 9th prince. Thank you for your love, Scarlet Flame King. I don't have the fortune to enjoy it. Please find another partner. Su Yingxue broke free from Qin Mayan's hand. Qin Mayan pursed his lips. It's not the first time I've been rejected by you, but I'll show you my sincerity. Chapter 670. Xiao Yu also requested to marry Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue's cheeks were burning hot as she quickly walked back to the medicine hut. Saint Juan saw her flushed face and teased her. Oh, did you go to warm yourself by the fire? You look like you're about to catch fire. Old man, shut up, or I'll pluck out your beard. Su Yingxue glared at him fiercely. Saint Juan chuckled. You're all worked up now, like a rabbit ready to bite someone. But I'm not the one who proposed to you. So if you want to bite, find the right person. Oh, by the way, the person inside is still waiting for you. You're the rabbit, Su Yingxue retorted fiercely. But the person inside. Su Yingxue remembered that today was the day to detoxify Ziwei. She quickly snatched the medicine from Saint Juan and dashed inside. Saint Juan lounged back on the rattan chair, crossed his legs and sighed softly. Oh, with so many admirers, can you settle it all in this lifetime? It seemed there were advantages to being alone. Inside the medicine hut, Ziwei lay on the hospital bed, visible poisonous gas emanating from his naked body. Su Yingxue used silver needles to force the poison to a single point, then cut open his finger to release all the poisonous blood. After drinking the medicine, Ziwei's body and complexion returned to normal. Su Yingxue breathed a sigh of relief, her expression easing. That's great, Ziwei. One more treatment, and all the poison in your body will be cleared. There was no joy on Ziwei's face, and the purple hue at the corners of his eyes deepened. Su Yingxue gently caressed his eyes. What's wrong? Aren't you happy? Once the poison is gone, You'll live a long life. Live a long life. He didn't care. There was no expression on Ziwei's cold face. Will you get married? Su Yingshi's hand paused. Why are you suddenly asking about that? Will you? Ziwei asked. Of course. I like the 9th prince. I want to marry him. When Su Yingxue mentioned Shu Yihan, a smile unconsciously appeared at the corners of her eyes, painting a picturesque scene. Ziwei's heart sank. He gripped the knife, got off the bed, and left without a word. Ziwei, where are you going? Don't you want the candy anymore? Su Yingxue took out the candy packet from her belt, which she had been saving for him in case he refused to take the medicine. But today, watching Ziwei's retreating figure, she couldn't shake the feeling that he wouldn't return. In the afternoon, Xiaoyu arrived. Su Miaoyan couldn't contain her excitement, waiting eagerly at the front door. She rushed to greet Xiaoyu, expecting him to acknowledge her as usual. But Xiaoyu brushed past her with Xiaoxi's help, as if he hadn't seen her, leaving Su Miaoyan rooted to the spot. Xiaoxi noticed Su Miaoyan. Young master, Miss Miaoyan is here to pick you up, right? Shut up. Xiao Ye's face turned cold and stern, his handsome features pale, his demeanor even more grim. Young master. There was a hint of pity in Xiaoxi's eyes. In all the years he had served him, he had never seen young master so happy to see anyone as he was with Su Miaoyan. But unfortunately, the family head had ordered him to marry Su Yingxue. Sigh. Xiaoxi could only lament silently for his young master. In the front hall, Su Qingji sat in the high seat, facing Xiaoyu. Both exuded an air of importance, making the spacious hall feel somewhat cramped. Su Yingxue had to serve tea to the guests. Before entering, she saw Su Miaoyan lingering outside and pulled her in. Why aren't you going to see your handsome brother? Chapter 671. Who should she choose? Su Miaoyan bit her lip. I think handsome brother has something important to tell Grandpa today. It's not good for me to go. You're very sensible. Su Yingxue patted Su Miaoyan's head. However, she still couldn't help but take a few more glances inside. Xiaoyu was wearing a lake blue brocade robe, and his entire aura was different from before. He was no longer indifferent. Today, he seemed more like the heir of the Xiao family, calm and magnanimous, making people's eyes light up. Su Miaoyan was especially attracted to, and wanted to approve of Xiaoyu. However, she still knew her limits. She looked outside the door and went back. She didn't notice that when she was skipping away, Xiaoyu looked at her back with a hint of loneliness in his eyes. He couldn't disobey his father's orders, so he had to give it a try. Su Yingxue brought Jilan to the front hall to serve tea. She already knew Qin Mayan's intention. Although she didn't know if he had told Grandpa, she had already sternly rejected Qin Mayan. As for Xiaoyu, when Su Yingxue served him tea, she asked him softly, What are you doing here today? Didn't she always go to Qilin Garden to treat his illness and discuss cooperation? Xiaoyu took the teacup from her hand and raised his head. His clear eyes contained a trace of coldness. Propose marriage. Upon hearing Xiao Ye's words, Su Yingxue was surprised. Su Yingxue was confused. Xiaoyu was here to propose marriage? To whom? Could it be that he had taken a fancy to Su Miaoyan? This was too crazy. This little girl was only 13 years old, and had yet to reach adulthood. What a coincidence. Today I'm also here to propose marriage. May I know which young lady of the Su family you're proposing to? I heard there is a young lady waiting to be married in the residence. Qin Mayan looked at Xiaoyu and asked loudly. Xiaoyu put down his teacup and said indifferently, There is only one young lady in the Marquis of Marshall South's manor, who has reached adulthood, and is eligible for marriage. What he meant was that he wanted to propose marriage to Su Yingxue. Su Qingji stroked his beard meaningfully. Young Master Xiao, do you also want to propose marriage to my eldest granddaughter Yingxue? Xiaoyu replied, Yes. Su Yingxue almost picked Xiaoyu up from the wheelchair and scolded him. They were discussing a collaboration, so why was he here to propose marriage to her? Are you crazy? Su Yingxue couldn't help but think. Are the two of you sure you want to marry my granddaughter Yingxue? Su Qingzi's gaze swept over the two of them. Qin Mayan was determined. I will marry Yingxue as my princess. I will never change. The position of the young madam of the Xiao family is prepared for Miss Su, Xiaoyu said in a low voice. Su Yingxue stood beside Su Qingji, her fists clenched so tightly that they were cracking. These two lunatics. Yingxue, did you hear that? What are you thinking? Su Qingji looked at Su Yingxue, as if he had the intention to betroth her. Su Yingxue's heart skipped a beat, and her expression tensed up. Grandpa, I'm still young and don't want to get married yet. My marriage isn't urgent. Yingxue, you're already of age. It's time to talk about marriage. Qin Mayan gazed at her affectionately, his heart palpitating. Su Qingji also nodded. That's right. When it's time for a girl to get married, her age doesn't matter. Do you have anyone you want to marry? Yes. Su Yingxue was very certain. I want to marry. The two people who came to propose to you are both remarkable and talented among men. Have you made your choice? Su Qingji interrupted her before she could say anything, asking her to choose between Qin Mayan and Xiao Yu. However, Su Yingxue had no choice but to say, Grandpa, I don't like the Scarlet Flame King and young Master Xiao. Chapter 672. Qin Mayan and Xiao Yu. But now, the ones who came to propose marriage are the Scarlet Flame King and young Master Xiao. Su Qingzi's voice was cold and imposing, carrying the authority of the family patriarch. If grandfather allows it, I can tell you that the 9th prince has long expressed his intention to propose marriage, Su Yingxue hastily added. If not for her concern about her grandfather's disapproval, Chu Yihan would have come to propose marriage on the first day of his return. Yingxue, you're a young girl, yet you keep asking people to come and propose marriage to you. It's improper. Su Qingji sternly rebuked Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue bit her lip and exchanged a glance with Jilan, wanting her to seek out Chu Yihan. However, Su Qingji then instructed, Jilan, you and Miss will serve in the front hall. You don't have to go out. Jilan looked at Su Yingxue awkwardly. She could not disobey the orders of the old general, Su Qingji. She could only stand her ground. Yes, master. Su Yingxue gritted her teeth, feeling frustrated. When Su Qingji asked her opinion about Qin Mayan and Xiao Yu, she wore a serious expression. I don't want to get married. I won't marry anyone. Yingxue, are you upset? Are you waiting for the 9th prince to come? If he truly cares, why hasn't he proposed since the old general's return? You like him, but do you know if he feels the same? Qin Mayan gazed at Su Yingxue tenderly. He wasn't trying to flatter himself, but after staying in Jiangdu City for so long, he had only heard rumors about Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue, but never about Chu Yihan proposing. If Chu Yihan were sincere, Qin Mayan felt he would have made a move. However, the rumors about Su Yingxue and him had persisted for so long. Despite the damage to his reputation, he hadn't made a move until now. It was truly contemptible. Of course he likes me. The only reason he hasn't proposed is because... Su Yingxue hesitated to mention her grandpa's disapproval in front of everyone. No matter the reason, the fact remains that he hasn't proposed. Xiao Ye's words were cold but incisive. Indeed, regardless of the reason, wasn't it true that Chu Yihan hadn't proposed? So, Yingxue, if you still have feelings for him, you're the one who's hurting. It's normal to have competitors when you're as outstanding as you are. But sincere suitors may be rare. I don't mind if you choose between me and young Master Xiao. Qin Mayan expressed confidently. Qin Mayan believed Su Yingxue would choose him over Xiao Yu. Despite the Xiao family's immense wealth, Xiao Yu seemed indifferent. He wouldn't treat Su Yingxue as well as Qin Mayan would. I have no objections to competing with the Scarlet Flame King, Xiao Yu stated indifferently. Qin Mayan's Great Wei dynasty was thousands of miles away. Su Yingxue would never go to such an unfamiliar place. Moreover, Qin Mayan had a vested interest in her, so she would consider him more. However, they hadn't anticipated that Su Yingxue wouldn't yield under pressure. She turned and knelt before Su Qingji. Grandfather, I refuse to choose between young Master Xiao and the Scarlet Flame King. Please don't force me. Both were exceptional men, but she didn't want either of them. Su Yingxue glanced up at the roof. If Ziwei were here, he would understand and go to the 9th prince's mansion, right? But since he left, it felt like he would never return. Yingxue, why are you so fixated on Chu Yihan? Qin Mayan wanted to persuade her. Chapter 673. protecting Su Yingxue like a treasure compared to Su Yingxi's deep affection. Chu Yihan was simply not worthy of her. Su Yingxue stood tall like an evergreen tree. I'm willing. Other than the ninth prince, I won't marry anyone else. Su Yingxi's words were powerful. Her words were resolute, intended for Su Qingji to hear. This angered Su Qingji, who slammed the table. Nonsense. If you're so determined, where is the ninth prince? Has he arrived? I doubt ninth prince will come. Su Xinlan, smelling of makeup, entered with a round fan. Lately, she would visit the Marquis Manor under the guise of paying respects to Su Qingji, just to learn more about it. She would also return to sprinkle some malicious gossip. Seeing the two nobles proposing to Su Yingxue today, she, who had been threatened by Su Yingxue before, couldn't resist adding fuel to the fire. Approaching Su Yingxue as if a caring elder, she reached out. Yingxue, don't blame Auntie for scolding you. Look at you. You're so beautiful. Your medical skills are unmatched. And you're the cherished legitimate daughter of the Marquis Manor. Now both the Scarlet Flame King and young Master Xiao fancy you. Why pursue the ninth prince? Her words insinuated greed. Su Yingxue brushed off Su Xinlan's arm coldly. In terms of social standing, I can't compare to you. Didn't you set a fine example for us? Su Xinlan's face stiffened. Internally seething, she couldn't believe Su Yingxue dared to mock her. Yingxue, I understand you're not happy. But some people have a high life because fate treats them well. While others, they're not fated to be a ninth princess consort. Su Xinlan's tone dripped with mockery. Su Yingxi's lips curled coldly. That remains to be seen. But I'm sure you, Auntie, don't have the fate to be a Marquis, madam. What did you say? Su Xinlan's expression changed drastically. She dared to curse her, saying she didn't have the fate to be a Marquis wife. After years of scheming, that old woman was almost tortured to death by her. Su Yingxue said nothing, just smiled at Su Xinlan. Based on Su Xinlan's words today, she was determined to visit Chongqing Marquis Manor and ensure the Chongqing Marquis madam lived a long life. Enough. Leave. Su Qingji scolded Su Xinlan. Su Xinlan immediately put on an aggrieved expression. She whispered to Su Qingji, Father, I'm doing this for Yingxi's sake. What if she waits for the ninth prince, and it delays her life? Or, what if they're young and hot-headed and ruin their reputations? What then? Su Xinlan had ruthlessly slandered Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue stood up, ready to press her to the ground and teach her a lesson. Qin Mayan roared. I believe Yingxue is not like that. I won't allow you to slander her. Marquis, those who can't marry from the Marquis Manor need discipline, Xiao Yu said coldly. Although he didn't love Su Yingxue, if he wanted to marry her, he couldn't watch her get bullied. Su Xinlan held her breath. Previously, whenever she spoke ill of Su Yingxue in the residence, her father and that wretched girl Su Miaoyan would help her. Now when she wanted to speak ill of Su Yingxue in front of outsiders, these two outsiders couldn't wait to protect her. Chapter 674. Chu Yihan is here. Chu Yihan treated her like a treasure. Su Xinlan was furious. Retreat. Su Qingji gave her a warning glance, telling her not to embarrass herself again. When he looked at Su Yingxue again, his tone became calmer. You wanted to wait for ninth prince, but is he here now? Grandpa, he will come. As long as he knows. He only came because he knew about it. This is your wishful thinking. If he doesn't come, wouldn't it be said that the legitimate daughter of our Marquis Manor is shameless, and forced the ninth prince to come and propose marriage? Su Xinlan rolled her eyes in disdain. She didn't believe that there would be a ninth prince to propose marriage today. How could Su Yingxue be so popular? Su Yingxue gritted her teeth. Even if your highness doesn't come, I won't marry anyone else. Alt. Then it looks like our Marquis Manor's eldest young miss won't be able to get married. Su Xinlan's eyes were filled with mockery. Who says she can't get married? A powerful voice sounded, accompanied by a powerful aura. Chu Yihan appeared in a black python robe, and the atmosphere in the front hall dropped significantly. Su Yingxi's eyes lit up. Your Highness. Standing beside Chu Yihan, she was like a peach blossom in full bloom in March. When Chu Yihan arrived, everyone wanted to pay their respects to him, especially Su Xinlan. She was trembling when she knelt in front of Chu Yihan. "Greetings, Ninth Prince. You swore that I wouldn't come?" Chu Yihan's cold and deep voice formed an invisible pressure that pressed down on Su Xinlan's heart. Su Xinlan's heart sank. "I'm spouting nonsense. Please forgive me, Your Highness." Su Xinlan's forehead was covered in cold sweat. The dignity of the royal family was inviolable, especially when Chu Yihan was more powerful than the emperor. Being questioned by him was like being in hell, being roasted by the blazing lava. Chu Yihan glanced at her coldly. "In that case, I'll get someone to teach you how to speak properly." "Emochi." He called Emochi in, and Emochi walked to Su Xinlan's side. "Madam, please." Su Xinlan's entire body was trembling. Her face was pale as she stood up and wanted to ask for help. She looked at Su Qingji, but Su Qingji acted as if he did not see her. "Beg Suing Xue?" Su Yingsha's eyes were filled with indifference. When she recalled what she had just said, Su Xinlan felt that if she disappeared immediately, she might not cause any more trouble. If Suing Xue had said a few more words to Chu Yihan, she might not have been able to keep her life. "Ninth Prince, you came?" Qin Mayan was surprised. It seemed that Chu Yihan had put in a lot of effort for Suing Xue. Xiao Yu sat in his wheelchair and started calculating his chances of marrying Suing Xue. Su Qingji stood up. If there was one person who could be fearless in front of Chu Yihan, it would be him. He looked Chu Yihan in the eye. "Your Highness, are you here today to propose marriage for Ing Xue?" "Yes." Chu Yihan was very determined. "I am willing to marry Suing Xue as my princess. I will love and protect her for the rest of my life." Su Yingsha's heart was wrapped in warmth. "But I don't plan to marry Ing Xue into the royal family." Su Qingji stroked his beard and said, "My eldest granddaughter married into the royal family and suffered a lot. Ing Xue is the same. My Marquis Manor is a joke in Jiangdu City. That won't happen." Chu Yihan held Su Yingsha's hand. "What happened to Su Han will never happen to Ing Xue. Your Highness said so. But how can you guarantee that you can do it in the future? The husband's family is extremely important to a woman. I can't let Ing Xue make her own decision." Chapter 675. Why don't you believe Your Highness? Su Qingji refused firmly. His attitude surprised Qin Mayan and Xiao Yu. What surprised Qin Mayan was the old general's love for his granddaughter. It was touching and alarming. Xiao Yu lowered his eyes slightly. He and his father had taken a fancy to Su Yingsha's medical skills, but they could not underestimate the importance the Marquis Manor placed on Suing Xue. If he had a conflict with Suing Xue in the future, the Xiao family would probably be hurt. Suing Xue looked at Su Qingji in confusion. "Grandpa, Your Highness and Prince Yanggan are different people. I won't be bullied like my cousin." How could Chu Xiaotian compare to Chu Yihan? Besides, she wouldn't keep backing down like Su Han. "You haven't married yet, so how do you know? Was Hainer a stupid person? Don't you know what kind of life she is living in the regional prince's mansion?" Su Qingji asked back. His imposing manner cast a shadow over Su Yingsha's heart. The firmness in her relationship with Chu Yihan seemed to have been sealed. "I promised to old general that I will only marry Su Ing Xue as a princess in this life." While Su Ing Xue and Su Qingji were arguing, Chu Yihan spoke up forcefully. "Your Highness." Su Ing Xue was slightly stunned. In her heart, she naturally wanted to become Chu Yihan's one and only mistress in the prince's mansion. However, she had learned this way of thinking from her mother. In this era where it was common for men to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, it was very unrealistic. Even though Chu Yihan had promised her that he would only love her, she had also thought that there would be changes in the future, and that there would be other women by his side. However, he made such a promise in public. He was the 9th prince, and a promise was worth 10,000 gold. With his character, it was destined that he would never have second thoughts about Suing Xue after saying those words. Su Miaoyan, who was peeking outside the door, felt very touched when she heard this. "9th prince is infatuated with my sister," she pouted. What Suing Xue obtained was something that all the women in the world dreamed of. These words were enough to move people. Even Qin Mayan and Xiao Yu could not make such a promise. Qin Mayan looked at Chu Yihan with admiration. Xiao Yu's fingers moved slightly. He knew very well that Chu Yihan's words had reduced his chances of winning. However, Su Qingji was unmoved. I appreciate your highness' intentions, but no one can say for sure what will happen in the future. The ninth prince's mansion is too prestigious. My granddaughter is not worthy of such a status. Grandpa, Su Yingxue bit her lip. She could not understand why her grandfather's attitude towards Chu Yihan was completely different from his attitude towards Qin Mayan and Xiaoyu. They are all people who came to propose marriage to me. Why does Grandpa not believe your highness? She couldn't help but defend Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan tightened his grip on her hand. He looked at Su Qingji with a deep gaze. Old general, what must I do to make you agree to let me marry Yingxue? Chu Yihan vaguely sensed that Su Qingji was testing him. However, he did not think about what Su Qingji was dissatisfied with him about. His identity, his revenge. What Su Qingji knew was more detailed than anyone else. Whether it was his brother's disappearance back then, or his mother's sudden death, for no reason. Su Qingji's eyes were clearly connected to Chu Yihan's. What he was thinking was exactly what Chu Yihan was thinking. He stared deeply at Chu Yihan and said in a strong voice, I don't want Yingxue to become the ninth princess consort. Please, your highness, give up on this idea. Chapter 676. I'll only marry Chu Yihan in this life. His words were so resolute that Chu Yihan's breathing quickened. Grandpa, your highness, and I. Shut up. This was the first time Su Qingji had coldly shouted at Su Yingxue. He did not even let her finish her sentence. He even warned her when she was about to make a move. If you insist on marrying ninth prince, leave the Marquis Manor with him now. From now on, you are no longer my granddaughter, and have nothing to do with the Marquis Manor. Su Qingji's voice was loud and clear, and everyone present heard it. Even Su Miaoyan, who was outside the door, felt her heart tremble. Grandpa is angry. He wanted to chase Sister Shui out of the house. Grandpa! Su Yingxue's eyes turned red, and her hands were tightly clenched. Chu Yihan instantly lost their strength. Chu Yihan held her hand tightly. He had an impulse for a moment. Yingxue, are you willing to leave with me? Even if it meant leaving the Marquis Manor. It meant Su Yingxue had to take a gamble, that Chu Yihan would be her only choice in the future. Su Yingxue's eyes were filled with confusion. The confusion in her eyes deeply hurt Chu Yihan. How could she do it? She had betrayed her family for him. Chu Yihan waited for her answer for a long time. The air gradually solidified. The front hall was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. The only sound of movement was Chu Yihan releasing his grip on Su Yingxue's hand. Su Yingxue's voice trembled as she asked, Your Highness? Chu Yihan was still in front of her, but the moment he let go of her hand, her heart seemed to have been taken away. Chu Yihan's footsteps were heavy as he left. Thump, thump. It knocked on Su Yingxue's heart again and again, and every time it hit her, she could not breathe. When she regained consciousness and chased after him, Chu Yihan was nowhere to be seen. Su Yingxue stood in the empty courtyard. Her eyes were empty as she wandered around weakly. Su Miaoyan was afraid that she would fall, and quickly went up to support her. Sister, be careful. Ninth Prince, he left just now. He rode the horse, so it should have gone very far. Even if Su Yingxue chased after him now, she wouldn't be able to catch up. Yingxue, come back. Su Qingji called out to Su Yingxue, who was about to rush out of the Marquis Manor. He punished her. Go to the ancestral hall to reflect on your mistakes. Grandpa. Su Yingxue's red eyes were filled with intense emotions. Go to the ancestral hall. In the end, she did not dare to go against her grandfather. The injustice of her grandfather's death in her previous life had not been repaid. Su Yingxue gritted her teeth and went to the ancestral hall. When she left, her entire body emitted a sense of powerlessness. Yingxue. Qin Mayan wanted to follow, but Su Yingxue ignored him. He continued to chase forward, but Jilan blocked him. Scarlet Flame King. Please have some self-respect. The ancestral hall is an important place. Other than the Su family, no one can enter. I only wanted to comfort her, Qin Mayan explained. Miss doesn't need anyone's comfort now. Thank you for your kind intentions, Your Highness. Jilan rejected on behalf of Su Yingxue. Qin Mayan was also a stubborn person. He did not listen to anyone's advice, and insisted on chasing after Su Yingxue. He used all his patience to say what he could to Xue. However, Xue, who was kneeling in the ancestral hall, only replied indifferently, "I will only marry Chu Yihan in this life." She would not marry anyone else. Qin Mian had never suffered such a heavy blow before. However, he saw that Su Yingshi's face was full of disappointment and dejection, because she was in a bad mood. Perhaps old General Su had taught her a lesson, so harshly, that she was no longer in the mood to deal with him. Chapter 677. You deserve the best. Qin Mian stood up and said in a strong voice, "When you are feeling better, I will come to propose marriage to you." Xue was persistent that he would never let go of it. After Qin Mian left, Xiao Yu also resigned. Compared to Chu Yihan and Qin Mian, he didn't show any strong emotions. Instead, he remained very calm and composed after witnessing so many events. He was so indifferent that it seemed as if he wasn't involved at all. Su Miaoyan volunteered to see the guests off on behalf of her sister. When she escorted Xiao Yu, Su Qingji gave Xiao Yu a deep look. "General, I'm afraid this young man isn't simple," Su Wei said beside him. Su Qingji nodded. "He's indifferent and otherworldly, yet at ease. He's truly a talented among men. If he were the head of the family, Xiao Yu would be perfect, but as a husband, Su Qingji knew very well that he would never choose a cold-hearted person like Xiao Yu for Xue. Su Miaoyan walked to Xiao Yu's side, her long hair styled into a simple bun. The tassels on the hairpin tinkled, making her voice even crisper. "Handsome brother, why did you propose to my sister Xue? Do you like her very much?" Xiao Yu's gaze shifted to her. Under his indifference, there was a layer of pity that was difficult to see through. Xiao Yu replied, "Not bad. Not bad." Su Miaoyan was confused. How could liking someone be like evaluating food? Was there such an answer? Did he like her sister? He couldn't understand it. Xiao Si pushed Xiao Yu's wheelchair, and when he saw Su Miaoyan's confused face, he laughed so hard that his stomach hurt. His young master said that it was not bad, implying it was merely acceptable. With Su Yingshi's status and strength, she was worthy of being the young mistress of the Xiao family. Moreover, she was so beautiful that she could topple a country. It was even rarer for her to be able to cure Xiao Yu. That was why Xiao Yu's father, the head of the Xiao family, had asked Xiao Yu to come and propose marriage after weighing the pros and cons. However, it seemed that things weren't going well today. "Handsome brother, you have to be responsible for marrying my sister. You have to love her and spoil her, and you need to be very capable." When Su Miaoyan escorted Xiao Yu to the entrance of the Marquis Manor, she tilted her head and smiled at him. "Why?" Xiao Yu said indifferently, "Because Sister Xue deserves the best." After Su Miaoyan finished speaking, she pointed outside the door. "We're here. Take care, handsome brother." When Su Miaoyan turned around and returned to the manor, she was still thinking that if Xiao Yu were also her brother-in-law, she would be able to see him often. She liked to see his face. How good would it be to see it every day? Xiao Yu sat in the carriage and took out a paper crane from his bosom. It was folded by Su Miaoyan when she was in Qiling Garden, and there was still a faint fragrance on it. "You deserve the best." Xiao Yu's eyes gradually deepened, and a touch of darkness covered all the light. In the Marquis Manor's ancestral hall, Su Yingshui knelt until late into the night. Jilan and Su Miaoyan kept clamoring to accompany her. But after accompanying her until midnight, Su Miaoyan still could not help but fall asleep on the ground. Jilan and the nanny brought her back, leaving Su Yingshui alone in the ancestral hall. Su Yingshui knelt until her knees went numb. She did not feel anything and did not stand up. Su Qingji came in and offered incense to his ancestors. When he looked at Su Yingshui again, he realized that her eyes were clear. Perhaps she had already cleared the fog in her heart. Su Qingji lowered his head and looked at her. "Why aren't you getting up now? Are you blaming me for not agreeing to marry you to the 9th prince?" Chapter 678. Your Highness won't see you. Su Yingshui slowly attempted to move. Her legs went numb, causing her face to twitch. Granddaughter doesn't dare to blame grandfather. After experiencing a lifetime of such mistakes, she knew that grandfather would never harm her. No matter what happened, grandfather loved her sincerely. Therefore, She didn't delve into what had happened during the day. However, after managing to stand up, she staggered 2 steps in front of Su Qingji. But I have to tell grandfather that since I'm fond of Chu Yihan, I must marry him. With such determination, won't you marry anyone else in this lifetime? Yes, Grandpa. Su Yingshi's pitch-black eyes reflected 2 flickering candle flames, making her gaze particularly deep and serene. She didn't act impulsively. She had thought it through. Grandfather, even if it means sacrificing everything, I must be with him. There won't be anyone else in this world who loves me as much as he does. Su Yingxue was resolute and determined. Through her face, Su Qingji saw a shadow identical to hers. Father, no one in this world can stop me from doing what I want to do. I, Long Shuli, must do what I want to do, even if it means sacrificing my life. That voice was as melodious as Su Yingshu's. Su Qingji looked at her back and smiled with relief. Their mother and daughter. They're still so alike. With no one around, Su Wei came to report to Su Qingji. General, there are people from the 9th Prince's side watching outside the Marquis Manor, but they haven't entered or posed a threat to the manor's security. However, young Master Jingshuan's recent movements have been suspicious. He's gone to the 7th Prince's residence. The smile in Su Qingji's eyes vanished instantly, replaced by a cold pressure. Keep a close watch on his every move for me. Yes, General. Su Yingshi's legs were sore as she rode to the 9th Prince's mansion. She knocked on the door as usual. When the old steward came out to see her, he sighed heavily. Miss Su, Your Highness has already retired. Please come again tomorrow. I'm afraid this marriage. It was becoming difficult. Please open the door and let me see Your Highness. Grandfather will agree to our marriage. I will marry him. Su Yingxue rubbed her knees and said earnestly to the old steward. The old steward closed the door with a regretful expression. Alt. Su Yingxue pounded on the heavy door, suddenly feeling her hands weaken. She couldn't possibly force open a door that weighed hundreds of pounds. But she had to climb over the wall. Different from before. This time she not only had to climb over the wall, but also had to avoid the guards in the mansion, hiding and sneaking until she finally reached Chu Yihan's courtyard. Miss Su, you should go back. Your Highness has indeed ordered not to see you today. You don't need to come to the mansion anymore. Emochi held his sword and blocked her way. He too felt regretful, but he had the same responsibility as the old steward. No one could disobey Chu Yihan's orders. He even said, if Miss Su insists on entering today, I'll have to fall first. Su Yingxue rubbed her knees. She squatted on the ground for a moment before raising her head to ask Emochi. Tell me, after kneeling for 6 to 8 hours, what are the chances of me beating you down? Emochi was speechless. They weren't high, right? They might even be relatively low. Su Yingxue massaged her knees and prepared to confront Emochi. Chapter 679. Chu Yihan is drunk. Emochi was also compelled to draw his sword. But, roar! A vigorous white figure leaped down, roaring at Emochi and baring its teeth. Emochi was startled. You, why aren't you asleep yet? Why would a big tiger stay up all night if it didn't learn something good? And it even loves to meddle in others' affairs. Shanbao rolled its eyes. It licked Su Yingshi's knee and gently patted it with his paw. Su Yingxue looked at him in surprise. Shanbao, are you here to help me? Shanbao turned its head and showed a fierce expression to Emochi. Its massive body, sharp teeth and agile movements just now were all terrifying. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been scared out of their wits by him. Emochi's legs trembled. Shanbao, this is the master's matter. Are you sure you want to interfere? His master would deduct its meat. Roar! Shanbao pounced at Emochi without hesitation, clearing the way for Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue shouted excitedly at him. Shanbao, wait for me. I'll feed you the best meat. Howl! Shanbao had already knocked Emochi to the ground. He looked up and let out a long howl, appearing extremely excited. It was Emochi who suffered being pinned down by him. He struggled, but Shanbao's claws hit his heart. Damn it! Emochi's chest was heavily pressed down, and he could hardly breathe. If this tiger made any move, wouldn't its claws tear him apart? Emochi glanced disdainfully at Shanbao. You traitor! Shanbao looked very innocent. It was just following its animal instincts, following Suing Shue to get some meat to eat. Why couldn't these people understand? Suing Shue barged into the study. She knew Chuihan must be here. Your Highness. However, the scene that met her eyes was something she had never imagined in her life. The ground was littered with wine jars. A strong gust of wind, carrying the smell of blood, blew over. Suing Shue was choked by someone. This immense force could snap her neck in an instant. Your Highness. Su Yingshi's timely voice helped Chu Yihan's hazy eyes gradually clear. His eyes were bloodshot, and the blood vessels in his eyes were rampant and dense, forming a net that enveloped his eyes, along with complex emotions. Chu Yihan released his grip. The warm touch on his hand reminded him that the person in front of him was Suing Shue. If he didn't let go, he would hurt her. So he simply let go. Suing Shue was released and coughed heavily. Cough. Your Highness, why are you drinking so much? She didn't know if Chu Yihan's alcohol tolerance was good, but she could tell that Chu Yihan wasn't a person who liked to drink. Other than at palace banquets, she had never seen him drink. But now, Your Highness, can you please stop drinking? She stepped forward, wanting to take the wine jug from his hand, but he waved it away. I want to drink, you go. Your Highness. Chu Yihan's long hair was somewhat disheveled, and he didn't look as noble anymore. There was a sense of helplessness and dejection in him. This was an emotion that Suing Shue had never seen from this man in her previous and current lives. How could the ninth prince, even more honorable than the emperor, the heaven's favored son, drown his sorrows in wine? Chu Yihan's mind was intoxicated by the wine, but he still remembered clearly that he was forced to let go of Su Yingshi's hand in the Marquis manner. He waited for her, but she didn't hold his hand or chase after him. Chapter 680, Suing Shue come down. Between her family and him, she had made her choice. As for Chu Yihan, he was not so honored to be her choice. Your Highness, I don't want to explain anything to you, but I want to tell you something. Turn around and look at me. Suing Shue mustered up her courage as her heart pounded wildly in her chest. Chu Yihan's hand on the table tightened slightly. Should he turn around? What if it was a deeper rejection? She came to tell him that she had chosen the Marquis manor and her family, abandoned his love, and cut off all ties with him. Or did she think that Qin Mayan and Xiao Yu were more suitable for her than him? Chu Yihan's mind was filled with these thoughts, making him extremely frustrated. No turning around. He wouldn't have to face her. He could even be a little rough. You can leave. The red silk in the residence has been removed. This was something he ordered people to do after returning from the Marquis manor. Forget about the marriage. What's the point of keeping these red things? An eyesore. Why do you want to tear it down? Don't tell me you want marry me. Chu Yihan, you're a traitor. Suing Shue gritted her teeth in anger. Did he just say that he wasn't going to marry her? When did I betray you? I want to marry you, but you. Su Qingji did not agree, so she did not take another step forward. Aren't I here? Chu Yihan, if you don't marry me, I'll make sure that you won't be able to marry anyone else for the rest of your life. What mature, steady, calm, and composed. Screw all of them. She wanted Chu Yihan. Suing Shue jumped onto Chu Yihan's body and wrapped her legs around his waist. Her entire body was hanging on his body like a pendant, and her arms were tightly wrapped around his neck. This change came a little too quickly. Chu Yihan rubbed his sore forehead. His nose was filled with the unique fragrance of the girl's body. There was also a faint herbal fragrance. The wine pot emitted a strong smell of alcohol, which instantly made him feel a little disgusted. He threw away the wine pot in his hand and said in a low and hoarse voice, Suing Shue, come down. I'm not going down. Come down. I'm not going. If you don't come down, don't blame me for making a move on you. If you have the ability, throw me out, or I won't come down. Suing Shue bit her lip and held Chu Yihan tightly. She did not believe that Chu Yihan would dare to throw her out. Chu Yihan let her hug him. The pain that Suing Shue imagined did not come. Instead, her shoulders sank. Chu Yihan rested his head on her neck. The smell of alcohol mixed with his cold fragrance enveloped Suing Shue. His deep and hoarse voice exuded the elegance of a mature man, making one intoxicated. Suing Xue, if you don't go down, I won't let you go. Suing Xue would usually be shocked when she heard this. But at this moment, she liked his possessiveness. She even playfully blew into his ear. If I don't go down, what will happen to me? Chu Yihan's body was ignited by her, as if a fire had been lit within him, and it spread from his heart. He could no longer restrain himself, and pulled Suing Xue down. Then he pushed her a few steps away. Suing Xue, stay away from me. If you can't be my princess, then, let's go. I'm not leaving. Su Yingxi's eyes reddened as well. She clung onto Chu Yihan's shoulders, stood on her tiptoes, and kissed his lips forcefully. This time, she was the one leading the way. The kiss went deep, until she deliberately indulged him, allowing Chu Yihan to take over everything she said. This was a war without smoke. For the first time, Chu Yihan felt that victory was not in his grasp. Chapter 681. Fei Chuan Pavilion. The woman before him was breathtakingly beautiful, with cheeks as fair as bone china, tinged with a blush that stirred the heart. He could restrain himself once, twice, thrice. However, he couldn't guarantee that he could restrain himself every time. His voice, lowered and tinged with threat, also carried a hint of alcohol as he exhaled. Suing Xue, do you realize how dangerous you are right now? Su Yingxi's whole body felt ablaze. I can sort of feel it. Then why aren't you leaving? I don't want to leave, nor do I dare. She feared that if she left now, she would lose Chu Yihan completely. Chu Yihan, I haven't liked you for over a decade, but starting now, I'm willing to spend the next several decades liking you. Are you willing to? Su Yingxi's voice was as delicate as a mosquito's buzz. With her lips mere inches away from Chu Yihan's, every word she uttered allowed him to envision the shape of her lips. There was no longer any distance between them. The string in Chu Yihan's mind, which had been tightly wound, snapped. The fire within him burst through his chest, consuming everything. Amidst the ambiguity, there was a scent of intoxicating fragrance and sweaty sweetness. On the soft couch in the study, figures intertwined, as if they wanted to lay bare all their hearts, burning away everything in the world with the fervent flames of love. The sunlight streamed lazily into the room, illuminating Chu Yihan's golden robe with a few streaks of light. Suing Xue awoke sore all over. As she moved, Chu Yihan's robe slid off her, revealing her snow-white skin dotted with plum blossom marks wherever the sunlight touched, some marks causing embarrassment. Covering her eyes, Suing Xue recalled last night's scene, her face flushing with embarrassment. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, it was truly unforgettable. But where did Chu Yihan go? Su Yingxi's clothes lay scattered on the floor. Wrapping herself in Chu Yihan's robe, she tentatively called out, Your Highness? Only her echo reverberated in the study. Chu Yihan was nowhere to be found. Su Yingxi's heart sank. After fiery passion, was there nothing but cold indifference? She pouted, contemplating whether she should leave first when the door creaked open. Startled, she quickly covered herself with the robe. A tall figure blocked out all the sunlight, but his face, backlit, was stunning. Chu Yihan approached her silently, lifting her without a word, and circumventing the courtyard, arrived in front of a towering pavilion. The towering roof, grand red bricks, and intricate carvings of dragons and phoenixes on the pillars were awe-inspiring. If the splendor outside was already beyond the reach of ordinary people in a lifetime, the nobility and elegance inside were even more enticing. Looking up, Suing Xue saw that the roof was transparent, the glazed tiles emitting a dazzling 5-colored light under the sunlight. Beautiful yet not glaring. Your Highness, what place is this? Suing Xue couldn't help but wonder. Though she hadn't explored every corner of the 9th Prince's mansion, she had seen most of it. Yet, she had never seen this place before. Chu Yihan carried her up the frosted white jade steps, each step made of rare white jade. Even Suing Xue, born into a marquis family, would only use this frosted white jade to make bracelets or hairpin decorations. Yet here, the steps were made of frosted white jade. Incredibly precious. As Chu Yihan ascended the steps, he informed her, This is the Fei Chuan Pavilion. Chapter 682. The first time I met my mother-in-law, Suing Xue had never heard of it before. but it must have taken a lot of effort to build this place. The sparkling light of the glass attracted her. She turned her head and saw a hot spring. Layers of white mist rose from the pool, and the sound of flowing spring water gradually came. The beauty in front of her was as beautiful as a dream. Feichuan Pavilion. Is it a natural hot spring? Suingxue smelled it. It was the smell of natural spring water, and the abundant spiritual energy in the mountains. It was fresh and sweet. Chu Yihan nodded, and carefully placed her into the pool. The moment her body was wrapped in the hot spring, Su Yingxi's soreness and fatigue were relieved. She was soaking in the pool. When she looked up at Chu Yihan, she squinted her eyes comfortably. Chu Yihan used a handkerchief to gently wipe her body. His fingers caressed the marks on her body, and the corners of his lips curled up unconsciously when he recalled that he had left them last night. Suingxue turned around and lay in front of Chu Yihan. Her small feet kept splashing in the water. She smiled. Would your highness come here alone to enjoy yourself? I'm afraid that even the imperial palace would find it difficult to build one. Not to mention how much money had been spent. Just the exquisite design and the difficulty of laying glazed tiles on the roof were not something that could be done by ordinary craftsmen. Only a person who could make people submit to him could gather so many people to build this building. Chu Yihan pinched her little face. This is my mother's place. Today I'm bringing you to see her. Su Yingxi's eyes widened. Chu Yihan pointed at the wall opposite him. There was a painting of a beautiful lady, hanging on the flawless white wall. The woman in the painting was as beautiful as a fairy. The sweet smile on her lips was very touching. Suingxue could not help but sigh. It's so beautiful. A portrait was already so beautiful, and it was unknown how beautiful she would be in person. When Suingxue was moved by Imperial Consort Shu's beauty, she suddenly remembered that she was Chu Yihan's mother. She covered her face and cried out. Ah! He wanted to jump out of the pool and run out. What's wrong? Is the water hot? Chu Yihan quickly hugged her. His hand touched the hot spring water. The temperature was relatively high, but it was not so hot that Suingxue screamed in panic. No. Su Yingxi's face was so red that it looked like it had been cooked. This is my first time meeting your mother. How can it be like this? Even though Imperial Consort Shu had passed away many years ago, it was still her first time meeting her mother-in-law. She should bathe, change her clothes, and worship her mother-in-law. Now what was the situation now? She came to his mother's place after she had sex with Chu Yihan. Could Chu Yihan let me be mentally prepared? She thought. When Chu Yihan heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Mother has already met you. It meant that no matter what it looked like, it was already the truth. She was already his princess. After Suingxue had showered and changed, Chu Yihan said that he would bring her back to the Marquis Manor. If he returned at this time, he would face Su Qingzi's rage. However, since they had done such a thing, they had to have the courage to face it, and the ability to bear the consequences. Suingxue and Chu Yihan held hands, and walked into the manor together. At the door were Su Miaoyan and Jilan, who had been on tenterhooks for a long time. When the two of them saw Suingxue, they quickly went to her side. Sister Xue, you worried me to death. Chapter 683. Ability and Sincerity. Miss, Jilan is afraid that something will happen to you. Master is waiting for you in the front hall. Jilan reminded Suingxue softly. Suingxue said that she understood. Su Miaoyan accompanied Suingxue. Sister, why don't I go with you? If Grandpa blames you, I can still help persuade him. Suingxue scratched the tip of her nose. Sister won't implicate you for such a small matter. You should save your cleverness for when you get into trouble. I'm very obedient. How did I get into trouble? Su Miaoyan stuck out her tongue. Although she said this, she knew in her heart that Suingxue did not want to implicate her. Ah woo! Su Xinlan cried out in surprise from the corridor not far away. Oh right. She just got punished, and now she could only make such a sound. Even though she saw that Suingxue was safe and sound, she had 10,000 vulgarities in her heart that she wanted to curse, but she could only hold them in. She grimaced slightly. The pain from the flesh was about to kill her. You deserved it. Su Miaoyan snorted and laughed. Su Yingxue turned around and looked at the man beside her in reward. Your Highness is indeed amazing. Chu Yihan rubbed her head and accepted her praise. They went to face Su Qingji together. As they expected, Su Qingji reprimanded Su Yingxue and still disagreed with her marriage to Chu Yihan. Old General Su, I am determined to get Su Yingxue. Chu Yihan exuded the imposing aura of a superior. Even Su Qingji had to admit that he wasn't someone who wasn't afraid of the imperial power. If Ninth Prince insists on marrying her, I naturally can't stop you. However, Su Yingxue didn't get married from the Marquis manor. Su Qingji put down his teacup with an indifferent expression. It was fine if it was someone else, but Su Qingji had done such a thing before. Back then, Su Xinlan had made a mistake. Not only did she not get married from the Marquis manor, but she was also not recognized as the daughter of the Marquis manor for more than 10 years. The same thing could happen to Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue pursed her lips. Even so, Yingxue still has to marry the Ninth Prince. Su Qingji snorted. You're all very determined. All right, I'm not unreasonable. If you want to marry my granddaughter openly, you have to show me your ability and sincerity. On the surface, Su Qingji relaxed. Grandpa. Su Yingxue's eyes lit up. You agreed? Your Highness' sincerity and ability are right in front of us. Chu Yihan wasn't someone who could be easily suspected. He was the Ninth Prince. Chu Yihan could hear the hidden meaning in Su Qingji's words. What sincerity and ability do you want to see, old general? Sincerity is to make me feel that only your Highness is the most suitable person for Yingxue. As for ability, want your Highness to do it and use your most precious thing as a betrothal gift. Although Su Qingji was a military general, he was not inferior to the Prime Minister. His meticulous thinking was admirable. Su Yingxue could guess that the first sentence was to ask Chu Yihan to reject Xiao Yu and Qin Mayan's marriage proposal, even if he was the most suitable person for him. As for Chu Yihan's most precious possession, Su Yingxue was a little hesitant. She didn't know what her grandfather wanted, nor did she know what Chu Yihan would do. I agree. Chu Yihan did not hesitate at all. His decisiveness made Su Qingji feel a sense of admiration. Chapter 684. Get rid of Xiao Yu first. In that case, I will wait and see. After Su Qingji said this, Chu Yihan knew what he was going to do. He wanted to go to Qilin Garden, and Su Yingxue grabbed his hand and ran after him. Su Qingji shook his head and sighed. As expected, a grown woman can't be kept. Su Miaoyan had unknowingly caught up to the carriage. It was a little fierce last night, so Su Yingxue couldn't ride a horse today. She could only sit obediently beside Chu Yihan. There was even a thick mattress under her butt. Su Miaoyan's innocent eyes looked at Su Yingxue enviously. Sister Xue, brother-in-law treats you so well. He was afraid that you would hurt yourself when you sat in the carriage, so he put such a thick cushion on it. Su Yingxue's lips twitched awkwardly. It's not particularly good. After all, it was Chu Yihan's fault. Chu Yihan lowered his head and glanced at her. Didn't I treat you well enough last night? Enough. But, Su Yingxue glared at Chu Yihan. Didn't she know that Su Miaoyan was still a child? How could he say that in front of her? She doesn't understand. Chu Yihan was very certain. Su Yingxue turned around and saw that Su Miaoyan's small face was clean and pure. Su Yingxue was so frightened that her heart was pounding. She told Su Miaoyan, "It's good to lay a thick cushion. You will experience it in the future." However, as a doctor, she could not help but remind Su Miaoyan, "But it's best not to experience it. After all, it will hurt even more when you use the medicine." Alt. Su Miaoyan was confused. However, thanks to Su Yingxue, she had experienced this kind of kindness for quite some time after marrying Xiao Yu. They had arrived at Qilin Garden. When he heard that Su Yingxue came with Chu Yihan, Xiao Yu put down the account book in his hand and got someone to prepare to entertain Chu Yihan. However, Xiao Si was worried. Young master, this Ninth Prince brought Miss Su to the door aggressively. Don't tell me he's angry and wants to attack you again. Xiao Yu shook his head. Chu Yihan only loses his mind once in a while. A man who had been through countless battles won every battle, and was incomparably wise had cultivated a peerless martial arts technique. He was not going to use it to fight and kill in life. This time, Chui Han would only come to negotiate with him. Muyuan Pavilion. A refreshing fragrance floated in the light of the golden Nanmu. It was exceptionally beautiful. The 4 people sitting in the hall all had rare beauty. Chu Yihan was a heavenly being. Xiaoyu was elegant and noble. Su Yingxue was peerlessly beautiful. And even Su Miaoyan was a little fairy created from spiritual energy. Sitting together with such people, they looked pleasing to the eyes, but also made people feel ashamed of their inferiority. Xiao Si didn't dare to stand beside Xiaoyu to serve him as usual. He could only wait obediently at the door, afraid that his ordinary face would become strange inside. In the reception hall, Xiaoyu as the host spoke first. Your Highness, it's an honor for my Qilin garden to welcome you. May I know why your Highness has come today? Chui Han didn't beat around the bush. I hope that you can cancel the marriage proposal to Yingxue and find another good wife. Su Yingxue also said, Young Master Xiao, I know that you don't like me and want to marry me. It's only because you fancy my identity as the daughter of the Marquis Manners family and my medical skills that can cure you. Isn't this kind of marriage proposal a little too hasty? Moreover, his motive was too strong. If others saw through it at a glance, it would be meaningless. Chapter 685. Truly powerful. Xiaoyu lifted his head. On his sickly pale face, there was a captivating aura of restraint. No matter what, the Xiao family has the sincerity to marry Miss Su as the young madam. I think that this is enough. What he meant was that it didn't matter whether he liked it or not. As for asking him to give up, the pride in Xiao Ye's bones was something that his many years of illness had not been able to torture away. I am not as noble as your Highness, but the Xiao family is not an ordinary family either. Xiaoyu, are you unwilling to give up? Chu Yihan's deep eyes emitted a dangerous aura. Xiaoyu dared to look Chu Yihan in the eye and still said, I have no reason to give up, just like your Highness. The reason why he was determined to get Su Yingxue was because of love. Xiao Ye's reason was profit. They were all real reasons. What if I tell you that you can only benefit if you don't marry her? Chu Yihan tapped the table lightly. He did not look like he was here to negotiate at all. It was the same in the Xiao family as it was in the 9th prince's mansion. There was even a hint of leisure in his eyes. Xiaoyu could not understand Chu Yihan. His many years of business experience told him that Chu Yihan seemed to have come prepared. But what did he prepare? Xiao Ye's slender and well-defined hands picked up the green jade glass cup and gently took a sip of the tea. His movements were extremely elegant. Su Miaoyan sat next to Su Yingxue and peeked at Xiaoyu. She felt that Xiaoyu looked better and better the more she looked at him. Xiaoyu was just right in her sense of aesthetics, not a single bit more, not a single bit less. Xiaoyu took a sip of tea and thought of many things. Your Highness means that if I insist on marrying Miss Su, I will be making an enemy out of you. Your Highness has a high position and authority, and you have a large army in your hands. Even the emperor has to show some courtesy. However, my Xiao family has been in business for 100 years. Compared to ordinary merchant families, we are still a little more profound. Our military supplies have also not declined for many years. It will not be easy for your Highness to destroy the Xiao family in an instant. Su Yingxue pinched the tea lid playfully and tightened her grip. He had to admit that what Xiaoyu said was not without reason. Although Chu Yihan was powerful, the Xiao family's century-old foundation couldn't be shaken in a day. Chu Yihan laughed lightly and did not continue to discuss this topic with Xiaoyu. Instead he asked, Have you heard of Qianjizi, young Master Xiao? Xiaoyu nodded. The leader of the Qianji sect is said to be extremely wise. The Qianji sect is proficient in countless mysterious techniques and had once made the 4 countries afraid. Because of this, Qianjizi became arrogant and wanted to compete with the 4 countries. He wanted to have a high position and achieve hegemony for thousands of years. However, later on, Qianjizi was killed by His Your Highness, and the Qianji sect was destroyed. No one survived. Xiao Ye's cold and steady eyes turned towards Chu Yihan. This was a famous battle in the war that led to Your Highness' reputation. That's right, I've heard of it too. Originally, the 9th prince had a heart of cherishing talents and sent people to persuade Qianjizi to surrender. However, Qianjizi didn't give the ninth prince any face, and became more arrogant. Therefore, he and the Qinji sect were all eliminated by the ninth prince. Su Miaoyan cupped her small face. Her narration was not as heavy as Xiao Yes, and her lively and sweet voice made the air sweeter. A smile flashed across Xiao Yes' eyes. Suing Xue poked Su Miaoyan's little face. You know quite a bit. This is what the ninth prince wrote in his book, The Battle of the Qinji Sect. The story of the third volume of The Peerless Martial Soul is really interesting. Chapter 686. Bi Chu Yahan's friend Su Miaoyan blinked. Chu Jinling was her good playmate, so she naturally appreciated his masterpiece. However, she did not notice that when she mentioned Chu Jinling, Xiao Ye's eyes darkened, and he emitted a murderous aura. Chu Yihan sensed that Xiao Yu cared more about Su Miaoyan. From the moment they came in until now, Xiao Yu had only glanced at Suing Xue once, but his gaze on Su Miaoyan was much more. Moreover, he quickly restrained himself, as if he did not want others to notice. Chu Yihan sipped his tea lightly. I'm not trying to show off by mentioning this. I just have something to tell young Master Xiao. Your Highness, please speak. Xiao Yu gently raised his hand. Chu Yihan looked up, and his gaze fell on Xiao Yu. 1,000 cavalry sweeping across the battlefield. All the schemes will become a joke. This is true power. Xiao Yu's body trembled slightly. His soul trembled slightly before returning to its original position. 1,000 cavalry sweeping across. This was true power? Was that so? Of course. Was Qianjizi not smart? Was that the smartest person in the world? His plan wasn't good. Didn't he have a lot of nimble traps? No. It was the most in 9 continents. They had once occupied cities and fought against the imperial court. But what was the result? The entire Qinji sect was destroyed by Chu Yihan's cavalry. He, Xiao Yu, relied on his intelligence and status, but he might not be able to compare to Qianjizi. The Xiao family had a huge business, but they might not be as strict as the Qinji sect. Was the Qinji sect the example of the Xiao family? Xiao Yu, I know that you are a smart person. Rather than bringing disaster to the Xiao family, why don't you have me as a friend? Chu Yihan smiled. Friends? What does your Highness mean? Xiao Yu frowned. If you give up on Yingxue and find another good wife, I will make you my friend. Will you reject me? I won't. Xiao Yu quickly answered with certainty. Some powerful people would only make others want to be friends with them, because being an enemy was too terrifying. Just like the shattered Qinji sect, Xiao Yu wouldn't use the Xiao family as a bet. He loosened his grip on his thumb and index finger, and his expression relaxed a little. Your Highness is indeed extraordinary. Let's forget about the marriage between Miss Su and me. I'll immediately send someone to explain it to old General Su. In that case, I'll have to trouble young Master Xiao. Suing Xue narrowed her eyes and smiled. She looked at Chu Yihan with admiration in her eyes. Your Highness was amazing. Chu Yihan and Suing Xue still had things to do, so Xiao Yu didn't ask them to stay. After sending them off, Xiao Yu looked at Chu Yihan and said, Your Highness, you won't forget that we're friends, right? Of course not. When young Master Xiao finds another wife, I will prepare a generous gift. All right. The two men had already communicated silently in their eyes. Su Miaoyan did not see it at all. Suing Xue did not understand. She held Chu Yihan's arm. Your Highness, what did you and Xiao Yu agree on? They had clearly said it in front of her, but she had not been able to understand their words thoroughly. This was a headache. Chu Yihan glanced at Suing Xue. You're leaving your sister here? Suing Xue replied. Oh, it's nothing. Xiao Yu will send a carriage to send her back at night. Besides, it's much quieter at Xiao Ye's place than at home. She can also read and practice more. Chapter 687. Afternoon at home. Su Miaoyan was forced to do all this, and was completely unaware. Chu Yihan glanced at her meaningfully, but said nothing more. He then took her to the palace. Qinghe Palace. The audience had concluded, and all envoys had departed from the great Qing dynasty. Yet Qin Mayan remained for the marriage proposal. Suing Xue didn't know what he was thinking. Chu Mingyuan treated him well, allowing him to stay in the palace as long as he wished. Since Su Hao guarded the border between the Great Wei dynasty and the Great Qing dynasty, there wouldn't be any trouble. When Qin Mayan heard that Su Yingxue had been punished for kneeling the night before, he rushed to the Marquis Manor to see her early in the morning. However, the people at the Marquis Manor said Su Yingxue hadn't returned. Qin Mayan then received news that Su Yingxue was at the 9th Prince's mansion. He had already gathered his subordinates and made preparations to barge into the 9th Prince's mansion and bring Su Yingxue out. Unexpectedly, the people from the Great Wei dynasty had returned, and he was about to meet them. However, as soon as Su Yingxue arrived, he didn't even hear a word from his subordinate before rushing to the main hall. Wei Ju followed him looking nervous. Your Highness! Your Highness! At least listen to what he has to say first. There's still your mother's order. Wait! Nothing is more important than me meeting Yingxue. Qin Mayan was in a hurry. After a few steps, he left Wei Ju behind. Wei Ju wiped the sweat off his forehead. He felt that Qin Mayan must have been bewitched by Su Yingxue. In the main hall, besides Su Yingxue, there was also Chu Yihan. The way their fingers were intertwined made Qin Mayan extremely unhappy. He rushed forward, his well-defined face emitting anger. Chu Yihan, you're still a man. Use your abilities to marry Yingxue. Otherwise, don't be entangled with her like this. I will naturally marry her. Chu Yihan glanced at Su Yingxue and replied gently, I won't let you go either. The old General Su said that I can fight with you. He couldn't care less about who Xiao Yu was, but Chu Yihan. They were originally rivals, and now that they had fallen in love with the same woman, they were even more mortal enemies. I'm here to agree with you. When and where I will fight with you to the end. The atmosphere of war was ignited between Chu Yihan and Qin Mayan. Su Yingxue widened her eyes. You want to compete with Qin Mayan? Martial arts competition? Fight. This was too sudden. Qin Mayan's eyes flashed with excitement. Chu Yihan, you dare to compete with me? I should be the one asking you this. Do you dare to compete with me to your heart's content? The loser will not be qualified to marry her. Chu Yihan's entire body exuded an awe-inspiring aura. He was already stunningly beautiful, and this aura was even more shocking. Good. Qin Mayan laughed out loud. I was worried that I wouldn't have a chance to compete with you. Now is the perfect time. I agree. Tomorrow, in the west of the city, I will compete with you to see who is qualified to marry Yingxue. Good. Chu Yihan agreed. What's so good about it? Have you ever considered my feelings when you used my marriage as a bet? Su Yingxue was so angry that she wanted to hit someone. Qin Mayan was like a fighting dog. Why was Chu Yihan being so irrational? This wasn't like him. Yingxue, it's not that we don't care about your feelings. It's just that both of us are determined to marry you, so we must fight. Chu Yihan and I are almost the same in terms of status. I can see that he loves you deeply. I, Qin Mayan, am not a promiscuous person. I am willing to do everything for the person I have set my mind on. Chapter 688. Bloody Man. But this concerns the dignity of Chu Yihan and me. We are not only love rivals, but also enemies on the battlefield. That's right. Chu Yihan pressed on Su Yingxue's palm. I will fight him. Of course, if Chu Yihan loses, Yingxue, you can also reject my proposal. I will wait until you agree. Qin Mayan's words were deeply moved. Chu Yihan chuckled. You won't have the chance to be rejected by her. Su Yingxue would only agree to be his princess after he won. Chu Yihan, I like your valiant personality. This time, no matter who wins or loses, it will be an exciting battle. Qin Mayan's blood was boiling. He was already so excited that he couldn't control himself. Su Yingxue was powerless to stop such a huge battle from happening. When she was taken away by Chu Yihan, she was extremely worried. Your Highness, I've heard that Qin Mayan is the strongest martial artist in the Great Wei dynasty. If you fight with him, both sides will suffer. No, I can't. He and I will decide on the victor. This isn't just a battle between me and him, but also a duel between the Great Wei dynasty and the Great Qing dynasty. If he couldn't retreat, he wouldn't go back on his word. But, when Su Yingxue thought of Chu Yihan fighting Qin Mayan, countless unsafe images popped up in her mind, making her extremely anxious. Chu Yihan cupped her face and kissed her. Wait for me at the manor tonight. I need to prepare for tomorrow's battle. Su Yingxue was sent back to the Marquis manor by him. Not long after, Su Miaoyan was also sent back by Xiaoyu. When she saw Su Yingxue's grave expression, she blinked her eyes, which were filled with spiritual energy. Sister, what happened? Didn't handsome brother agree not to propose? What do you and your highness have to worry about? Do you know the Scarlet Flame King? Su Yingxue's heart was heavy. Su Miaoyan tilted her head. The Scarlet Flame King is the god of war of the Great Wei dynasty. The ninth prince was also a legendary figure in the book. Speaking of which, he was also one of the people who proposed marriage to her sister. Sister, you're amazing. Not only Chu Yihan and Xiaoyu, but even Qin Mayan of the Great Wei dynasty liked her sister. Su Miaoyan admired Su Yingxue's charm. Your Highness, tomorrow, he wants to compete with him. Su Yingxue was supported by Su Miaoyan, and unknowingly walked to the front hall. Everyone in the hall heard what she said. Su Qingji nodded his head in agreement. Both of them are men of blood. They are admirable. But when the time comes, I'm afraid no one will be able to retreat unscathed. It was rare for Su Han to come back, and she was worried for Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue's frown deepened. She would rather that the two of them were not men of blood. She locked herself up in the medicine hut without any energy. Su Miaoyan sighed. I think Sister Shui won't be able to eat well or sleep today. Su Qingji felt that his child was not delicate, and waved his hand boldly. Let her be. If she doesn't rest well today, she'll be even more worried when she goes to watch the battle tomorrow. Grandfather, aren't you afraid that these two your highness will get injured or crippled when they fight? Sister will still marry ninth prince. Su Miaoyan jumped in front of Su Qingji and asked nimbly, a man fights on the battlefield. Why should he be afraid of being injured? Su Qingji replied boldly. Chapter 689. Su Han's reminder. Su Miaoyan's lips twitched awkwardly. Grandpa was indeed a great general. She should go and comfort Sister Shui. After she left, only Su Han and Su Qingji were left in the front hall. Hainer, you've been resting at home for a long time. Are you feeling better? Su Qingji asked with concern. Su Han nodded and smiled. Thank you for your concern, Grandpa. Hainer's much better now. I missed my family when I wasn't in the Marquis manor these days. But why didn't I see Brother Jinxian today? Su Jinxian was a loner, but Su Qingji was tolerant enough to not restrict his movements. However, Su Qingji was a little wary when Su Han mentioned it alone today. Hainer, do you have something to tell Grandpa? Su Han had always been thoughtful and meticulous, so she wouldn't talk about a person for no reason. Su Han looked around and saw that there was no one around. She walked to Su Qingji and whispered something. After that, she sat on her seat, a trace of worry in her elegant eyes. Yingxue is feeling uneasy because of the battle between the two, Your Highness. It's not good to let this matter worry her again, but Grandpa has to be on guard for the sake of the Marquis Manor and Yingxue. Su Qingji looked at her with approval in his eyes. You're a thoughtful and good child. Su Han smiled and said, Yingxue saved my life and helped me escape from the abyss. I will repay her kindness. Besides, the Su family is bound to prosper and fall together. I must think for my sister. Su Qingji was very pleased. He had been fighting for many years, so he couldn't care about his children. However, he still felt sorry for Su Han. Hainer, don't worry about the past. When you feel better, I will find you a good marriage. Grandpa doesn't have to worry. Su Han's eyes were filled with sadness. Hainer has brought shame to the Su family. Grandpa already loves Hainer a lot by not blaming me. From now on, Hainer will stay at home to serve my parents and accompany them for the rest of their lives. Nonsense. It was the regional prince's mansion that made things difficult for you. When did you bring shame to the Su family? As long as Grandpa is here, you can be like Yingxue and be a free child. If you have someone you like, Grandpa will personally go and propose marriage for you. Su Qingzi's tone was sonorous, and his deep voice was filled with deep affection. Su Han's eyes reddened instantly. She was the eldest daughter of the Su family's eldest branch. Although her father did not inherit the title of nobility, he was still a high official in the court. Her mother was also born into a prestigious family. Therefore, she had been educated since she was young to bear the responsibility of the family, set an example, and do what the eldest daughter should do. The rules of etiquette were the shackles that she could not break free from. Therefore, even though the regional prince's mansion had treated her like that, she did not dare to resist and took it on with all her might. Later on, it was because of her life that she decided to break off all ties. In the end, it was also to preserve the face of the family. She knew that she, Su-han, had become a laughingstock in Gyeongdu City. She still had to force a smile. She couldn't lose the demeanor of an eldest daughter, and couldn't let her parents worry. However, her grandpa's words today touched her greatly. A tear flowed out of the corner of her eye. "Thank you for your love, Grandpa. Don't say such polite words. If you're bored at home, come and finding Shue and Meow Meow. You're all girls of the Su family. You must live for yourself and live a wonderful life." After Su Qingji said this, he sighed heavily, as if he had recalled some heavy past. Chapter 690. Watching Chuihan grow up. "Yes, Grandpa, Hainer will abide by your teachings." Su-han smiled and took her leave. When she arrived, the sky was covered in dark clouds, and as she departed, it remained the same. Yet, she felt as if she had glimpsed sunlight, bringing a hint of vibrancy to her eyes. "Miss, Master sent me to escort you," a rough male voice rang out. The voice startled Su-han. Looking down, she saw a man clad in armor with an iron mask. He seemed familiar. "Are you General Song?" Song Qingyi nodded. "Yes. You. Why do you look like this?" Jifan was taken aback. Ever since Su-han got into trouble, Su Dingwei had been concerned about her, and decided to select one of his subordinates to accompany and protect her. To avoid causing her parents to worry, she agreed to this arrangement. However, upon seeing Song Qingyi, she couldn't help but be surprised. General Song holds a high military rank. It seems like it would be a waste for him to protect me. I'll report back to father, so I don't need to trouble General Song. Su-han was polite. Song Qingyi glanced at her and asked, "Miss, am one frightening you?" Ordinary people reacted to him the way Jifan did. At first glance, Su-han seemed taken aback. Su-han pressed her lips together. "Not at all. Miss, do you know this General Song?" Jifan whispered. "Indeed, he's a bit scary." Though Song Qingyi may not have heard Jifan, Su-han reprimanded her. Jifan apologized to General Song. "He is father's subordinate, and tasked with protecting me. Do not speak ill of him." Song Qingyi felt somewhat overwhelmed. "Miss, there's no need for such formality. I was injured in battle, and my appearance is unattractive, my voice unpleasant. One often startle people. It's my fault. General Song, do not underestimate yourself. It was my maid's thoughtlessness." Jifan apologized at once. Su-han's tone turned stern. Jifan realized her mistake, and immediately knelt before Song Qingyi. "One didn't mean any offense. Please forgive me." Song Qingyi shook his head. He didn't wish to frighten Jifan further, so he remained silent. Once Su-han boarded the carriage, he mounted his horse and escorted her back. Su-han paid no mind, but she failed to notice the fervent determination in the eyes beneath the iron mask. Meanwhile, in the medicine hut, Su Yingshi's expression remained grim. Despite Saint Wan and Su Miaowen's playful banter, her lips remained tightly pressed. Unable to bear it, Saint Wan stood on a stool and huffed. "What's there to worry about? That's Chuihan. I've known him since he was a child, and he's never been defeated." "Braggart. Your Highness is much older than sister. How could you have watched him grow up?" Su Miaoyan teased, sticking out her tongue at Saint Wan. Observing Saint Wan's smooth face, Su Miaoyan couldn't help but compare it to Su Yingshi's. "He watched Chuihan grow up?" Puffed. Saint Wan raised his charming peach blossom eyes. "I'm 72. "What?" Su Miaoyan tumbled off the stool and onto the ground, wincing in pain. Her butt hurt. Su Yingxue reached out to help her, and Su Miaowen's eyes widened in shock. "Sister, is he telling the truth?" Su Yingxue nodded matter-of-factly. "Absolutely. He's quite the old man." Eek! Su Miaowen's mouth gaped wide enough to fit her fist. Why would an old man have such flawless skin? Chapter 691. Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue were both going to die. It wasn't that Su Miaoyan was jealous. Her teenage skin was nothing compared to Saint Juan's. This was so infuriating. Saint Juan touched his smooth skin with a hint of pride. Staying youthful is just my specialty. Su Miaoyan felt deeply envious. She knew people aged, but someone like Saint Juan, an old man still looking so youthful at over 70, was truly enviable. Suddenly, she wanted to seek his advice. Saint Juan squinted mischievously. "Little miss, do you want to stay forever young? Come, let me show you how." As he spoke, he stealthily pulled out a bottle of poison from his sleeve. Su Yingxue slapped his head. "How dare you corrupt my sister? I'll beat you to death." "Hiss. That's it. Maintain this momentum until Chu Yihan and Qin Mayan's duel tomorrow. I guarantee that Chu Yihan will win." Rubbing his head, Saint Juan raised his chin at Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue suddenly realized Saint Juan was teasing her deliberately, hoping she wouldn't be so anxious. Saint Juan detested discussions about his age, but for Su Yingxue's sake, he had to endure it. He placed a hand on her shoulder and admitted, "With my 70 years of experience, let me tell you, the duel between Chu Yihan and Qin Mayan isn't just about them. Instead of worrying here about him getting hurt or such, you'd better prepare the best golden wound medicine for him. No matter how badly he's injured, even the king of hell can't take him away from you. That way, I'll put his mind at ease." "Shut up. Your Highness won't get hurt, let alone die." Angered, Su Yingxue kicked Saint Juan away. But she had to admit he was right. Her worries couldn't change the fact that she didn't want either Chu Yihan or Qin Mayan hurt. So she had to prepare the medicine. Su Miaoyan assisted Su Yingxue for a long time, and insisted on going with her the next day. Su Yingxue didn't argue and took her along. In their eyes, they were only concerned about Chu Yihan and Qin Mayan's showdown. Little did they know, at that moment in the palace, Chu Qingye, clad in armor, walked into the imperial study with a solemn and murderous aura. "Father, the imperial guards have been mobilized. All the secret guards and experts around me have already been stationed in ambush to the west of the city." On Chu Minjiwan's desk lay a precious sword. His composed face betrayed a barely contained excitement and eagerness. "After so many years, I've waited so long, and finally, the opportunity is here." "Chu Yihan." "Father, this time, one will spare no effort to bring Chu Yihan's head to you." Chu Qingye knelt, his eyes oozing with a sinister aura. "No, one want to behead him personally. You must capture him alive. One want to present my 9th brother to father personally." Chu Mingyuan unsheathed his sword, its blade emanating a chilling light, symbolizing imperial authority. This was the great Qing dynasty's imperial sword, something that rightfully belonged to him. But his father had wanted to bestow it upon the young Chu Yihan. How could he accept that? Chu Qingye nodded. "Yes, father. One will ensure that Chu Yihan is brought to you alive, and his head will be displayed on the city gate tower. All his military power will be seized." "Good. If his military power is seized, I will hand you the imperial seal and proclaim you crown prince." Chu Mingyuan made a solemn promise. The temptation of inheriting the empire was enough to make Chu Qingye risk everything. He had been eyeing the Marquis manor for a long time. Knowing that Chu Yihan intended to find Qin Mayan, he began to make arrangements. He secretly mobilized troops and set up an ambush as quickly as possible. This time, he sought to avenge his past. Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan had to die. Chapter 692. Decisive battle. The forest to the west of the city was vast and flat. Qin Mayan had arrived early in the morning, waiting there with his gleaming Qie sword. Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue seemed to have a telepathic connection. Although they hadn't arranged to meet, they both arrived simultaneously. Su Yingxue ran to Chu Yihan's side. "Your Highness." Chu Yihan saw the worry on her beautiful face and reassured her, gently pressing her forehead. "Don't be afraid. It'll be fine." Su Yingxue smiled bitterly. She truly didn't know how to respond to this comfort. How could there be no accidents in a battle between experts? "Yingxue, if one defeat Chu Yihan today, will you blame me?" Qin Mayan walked over to Su Yingxue and asked, his expression serious, not at all like he was joking. Su Yingxue's heart sank. You won't have the chance. Chu Yihan immediately interjected, cutting off the difficult question he had posed to Suing Xue. Before the match began, they silently agreed. Regardless of life or death, victory will be determined. Chu Yihan nodded. Regardless of life or death, victory will be determined. In other words, they wouldn't stop until one emerged victorious. Oh my god, they're not backing down. Are they going to fight to the death? Su Miaoyan exclaimed, covering her face in shock. This gamble was too significant. Your Highness, this won't do. If you don't return, how will I explain it to the eldest princess? Wei Ju knelt, his forehead dripping with sweat, expressing his worry. Qin Mayan lifted him and said, Take my body back. Mother won't blame you if she sees it. One was born for war and will die for it. Wei Ju was speechless. He felt that his life might be taken away with Qin Mayan's corpse. However, in the Great Wei dynasty, Qin Mayan had always been resolute. No one could change his decisions. Everyone knew this. No matter how worried Wei Ju was, it was futile. He Suing Xue, and the others all retreated 10 feet away. Su Yingshi's heart was filled with suspense, as she silently prayed that the match between these two wouldn't be so intense. Suddenly there was a loud bang. Bang bang bang. Chu Yihan and Qin Mayan clashed. The surrounding trees shattered, and a powerful wave of air burst through the sky, bouncing in all directions. Alt help! The others managed to avoid it, but Su Miaoyan shouted in fear. Suing Xue hugged her, and flew back a few steps. Although she dodged quickly, her arm was still injured by the air wave with a few cuts. Are you alright, Miss Su? Emochi hurriedly ran over, concerned. Sister, you're bleeding. Su Miaoyan hugged Su Yingshi's arm, distressed. Suing Xue calmly took out the medicine bottle, and had Su Miaoyan apply the medicine to her. The stinging sensation of the medicine on her skin made her grimace. The others looked at her, and thought she was in pain. But she knew it wasn't because of the pain, but because the feeling of being injured was a little unfamiliar. It had been a long time since she had been injured, as Ziwei had always meticulously protected her. She hadn't seen Ziwei for a few days. He probably left in anger. Su Yingshi's smile was a little bitter. Before she could come to her senses, Chu Yihan and Qin Mayan both took a few steps back. Chu Yihan used his sword to prop himself up, and barely managed to stabilize his body. On the other hand, Qin Mayan held his saber, and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His face was pale from the severe injuries. Your Highness! Wei Ju was sweating profusely. In front of him, Qin Mayan struggled to stand up and laughed heartily. Chu Yihan, you're truly amazing, but 1 am not inferior. Chapter 693. Chu Yihan, be careful. Chu Yihan waited for Qin Mayan to catch his breath before swiftly leaping into the air and striking down at him. The sharp sword edge carried a thick sword energy, resembling the roar of a dragon. As the sword descended, the surrounding ground cracked, and dust filled the air. Those observing the battle from a distance of 3 meters were covered in gray dust. Qin Mayan dodged the sword and countered with a fierce wind-like attack towards Chu Yihan. The blade was so intense that vegetation withered in its wake, leaving 10 wounds on Chu Yihan's body as his clothes were slashed open. Your Highness! Suing Xue clenched her fists tightly. The intensity of their duel was overwhelming. If this continued, someone was bound to perish. It would ultimately end in a fight to the death. This can't be. Your Highness can't die like this. Wei Ju drew his saber, seemingly ready to rush to Qin Mayan's aid. Mo-Chi shared the same sentiment. All of you stop. However, they were all stopped by Suing Xue. Mo-Chi and Wei Ju turned around in surprise. Wei Ju said, Miss Su, are you willing to stand idly by? Your Highness is sacrificing himself for you. Miss Su, continuing this fight will lead to dire consequences. No matter what, it's not your place to intervene. Have you forgotten their agreement? Stay out of it. Suing Xue spoke while stalling, then retrieved her red jade soft whip from her waist. She proceeded to bind Mo-Chi and Wei Ju together and immobilize them. Miss Su. Wei Ju realized he couldn't break free from the whip's grip. Mo-Chi warned, Don't move, this whip is tight and has barbs. If they moved, they would injure themselves. Hey, why don't you persuade Suing Xue? Women from the Great Qing dynasty are known for their gentleness. Why is she different? Wei Ju vented his frustration. Have you forgotten who she is? She is Suing Xue. Emochi retorted. Did they expect Suing Xue to act gently? Su Miaoyan was also anxious. Unable to wipe the dust off her face, she grabbed Su Yingshi's arm. What should we do, sister? If one of them dies and the other is injured, it won't happen. Su Yingshi's lips bled from biting them. She believed Chu Yihan would prevail. Amid their intense battle, the sky gradually darkened. Initially, they were solely focused on each other and their techniques. However, after several rounds, Chu Yihan felt the ground shake unnaturally. Recognizing his opponent's condition, Qin Mayan paused alongside him. Chu Yihan, what's wrong? Are you tired and considering surrender? There was a trace of mockery in his tone. Chu Yihan sneered. If you want to surrender, I'll gladly oblige. Keep dreaming. Qin Mayan swung his saber. The clash of the Chia sword and Qing Frost sword sent sparks flying. Their moves were relentless. Qin Mayan's internal injuries weighed heavily on him, and he was running out of energy. Nevertheless, he persisted, determined to defeat Chu Yihan with his saber techniques. Alt! Qin Mayan roared, delivering a powerful slash towards Chu Yihan. However, he suddenly veered off course, narrowly missing Chu Yihan's body and only slicing off half of his sleeve. Chu Yihan looked up in surprise. He had anticipated taking the blow to defeat Qin Mayan up close, but Qin Mayan had intentionally missed. Chu Yihan, watch your back. Qin Mayan, suffering from the backlash of his internal energy, suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. He raised his head, nervously looking at Chu Yihan. Chapter 694. Thinking of Chu Yihan. Swish, swish, swish. Behind Chu Yihan came a barrage of arrows. Even though he was severely wounded, he could still evade them. However, he stepped forward to intercept them, grabbed Qin Mayan, and tossed him towards Suing Xue. Quick, go! Hey, Chu Yihan! Qin Mayan wouldn't let him handle it alone. He saw a mass of dark figures rushing over from not far away. Oh no! It's an ambush! Wei Ju and Emochi shouted simultaneously. Miss Su, release us quickly. We must save your highness. Suing Xue retracted her whip and moved even faster than them. Your highness! Su Yingshi's whip deflected some of the arrows. She ran to Chu Yihan's side, only to see that 2 arrows had still struck him. Her expression darkened. I can handle this. You take your men and leave first. Chu Yihan shielded her behind him and cut down 2 of the black-clad assailants. He pointed at Qin Mayan. He's badly wounded. You must take care of yourself, and then save him. But your highness, you... Su Yingshi's worried expression deepened. I have a plan. These people are after me. You must leave quickly. As they spoke, clashing armor echoed, and well-trained soldiers surged forward, leaving Suing Xue feeling deeply unsettled. What's going on? Where did these soldiers come from? Hurry, go. Chu Yihan pushed her away from him. Wei Ju lifted Qin Mayan. Your highness, let's go. There are too many of them. Our men can't hold them off. No, save Chu Yihan. He can't die like this. He must only die by my hand. Qin Mayan trembled as he held the sword, glancing back at Chu Yihan. These people are after 9th Prince. Your highness, don't get involved. Wei Ju was frantic. Qin Mayan was in such a state, yet he was still concerned about Chu Yihan. No, he can't die. I want out. Get him back for me. Hey, Chu Yihan, let's go. What are you waiting for? Qin Mayan shouted at Chu Yihan as he was dragged away. Chu Yihan was too occupied with the enemy to respond, but he deflected all the arrows aimed at Qin Mayan with his feet. Your highness, I'll wait for you. With tear-filled eyes, Suing Xue turned back and shouted at Chu Yihan. She knew her martial skills wouldn't help Chu Yihan. She was only a hindrance. She first had to leave with Su Miaoyan and the heavily wounded Qin Mayan. She instructed Wei Ju to drag Qin Mayan to the trees first. She had to tend to his wounds first, or he would truly die. Xue, aren't you worried about Chu Yihan? Qin Mayan looked at the woman calmly applying medicine to his wounds. He was puzzled. He knew Suing Xue liked Chu Yihan. Her eyes were red. It pained him to see her like this. I am worried. But right now, I have to save you first. Suing Xue took a deep breath. Your Highness will be fine. I believe in him. This declaration was sharper than all of Chu Yahan's sword strikes. Suddenly, Qin Mayan felt as if his heart had been stabbed countless times. Your Highness, there are too many people. I'm afraid we won't be able to escape. Wei Ju's men had scouted ahead and reported. The army surrounds this mountain. There's no way out. Army? Su Yingsha's eyes darkened. Where did the army come from? They're here to kill Ninth Prince. The man's indifferent voice echoed. Su Yingxue turned around and saw Xiao Yu. How did you get in? Su Yingxue stared at him. Just moments ago, Wei Ju's men had said this place was surrounded, yet Xiao Yu appeared. Chapter 695. He wanted to take Su Miaoyan away. First Xiao Yu saw Su Miaoyan, covered in dirt, and his expression darkened. I had someone dig out a passage that leads down the mountain. His handsome features exuded clear displeasure. Had he not spoken, no one would have thought he was here to rescue them. Handsome brother, what are you doing here? It's super dangerous. Su Miaoyan wiped some dust off her face and approached Xiao Yu pouting. You knew it was dangerous, so why did you come with your sister? Xiao Yu's tone was stern. This was a life-or-death situation. Besides Su Yingxue, everyone else could defend themselves. The pressure he emitted made Su Miaoyan tremble. I'm just worried about my sister. Little did she know about the ambush and the appearance of the army. All right, Xiao Yu, let's get out of here quickly. If we're caught, none of us will escape. Su Yingxue made a decisive decision. She administered medicine to Qin Mayan. Wei Ju carried him, and Saint Wan set traps with poison behind them to slow down their pursuers. Following Xiao Yu, they arrived at the entrance of a cave, where Xiao Yu's people had dug the tunnel. Seeing the newly opened passage, Saint Wan rubbed his nose. Money can move mountains. When I was here earlier, everything was fine. And now there's a way out. In this world, only Xiao Yu could mobilize skilled workers and resources to create such an escape route in such a short time. Xiao Si proudly raised his chin. This is the strongest team in the world. Young Master invests heavily in them every year just in case. They managed to open this passage in just 6 hours. 6 hours to dig a path. Even Wei Ju found it hard to believe. Handsome brother is amazing. Su Miaoyan clapped her hands in admiration. Seeing her spirited smile, Xiao Yu's expression softened. He stood up from the wheelchair and handed it to Qin Mayan. Let's go, don't delay. All right, Wei Ju, you and the Scarlet Flame King go first. I'll follow behind with Saint Wan, Su Yingxue urged. Wei Ju was about to push Qin Mayan away, but Qin Mayan firmly held onto Su Yingsha's hand. How can I leave you behind? Using his saber to support himself, Qin Mayan stood up on the wheelchair. We must leave together. I won't leave you alone. Qin Mayan could accept death under Chu Yahan's sword, but he couldn't abandon Su Yingxue and escape alone. That would be too cowardly. Your Highness, your injuries are too severe. You should leave quickly. Wei Ju urged anxiously. He wanted to tell Su Yingxue not to delay, and leave quickly. If she didn't leave, your Highness wouldn't budge. Air sister, Su Miaoyan exclaimed. While they were still being modest, Xiao Yu had already grabbed Su Miaoyan and entered the passage. Su Miaoyan couldn't match the strength of an adult man. Even though Xiao Yu was frail, it was effortless for him to pull her along. However, she was unwilling to leave Su Yingxue behind. In the dim passage, Xiao Yu asked her in a low voice, Do you know martial arts? Can you help your sister? I can't, Su Miaoyan replied dejectedly. In this situation, she was indeed a burden to Su Yingxue. But as her sister, she couldn't abandon her in danger and escape with Xiao Yu alone. Chapter 696. Sewing wounds in the chaos. Even if they were, the children of the Su family would die together. Su Miaoyan tried to break free from Xiao Yu's grasp, but the moment she turned around, Xiao Yu coldly threatened her. If you turn back, I'll blow up this passage immediately. If Su Miaoyan didn't follow him, everyone would die. Handsome brother Yu. Su Miaoyan's eyes widened with fear. Why was Xiao Yu, besides being handsome, so frightening now? Miss Miaoyan, just listen to the young master. It's an army, not just ordinary assassins. There are thousands of soldiers. If you don't know martial arts, you'll only drag Miss Su down to her death. Follow the young master down the mountain. At least protect yourself first before thinking of a way to save Miss Su. Xiao Si tried his best to persuade her. Others might not understand, but he knew very well that if Su Miaoyan dared to go back, Xiao Yu would indeed blow up the passage. He might look cold, but the ruthless streak in him had always been there. Su Miaoyan took small steps and returned to Xiao Ye's side, but she didn't dare to let him hold her hand again. Luckily, they were fast, and the exit at the foot of the mountain went unnoticed by the imperial guards. Xiao Yu successfully got her onto the carriage back to Qilin Garden. Meanwhile, Su Yingxue and the others had just entered the passageway. Qin Mian refused to leave without her. To save his life, Su Yingxue had no choice but to go down the mountain with him. Saint Juan spread poison all the way. Su Yingxue instructed him not to be in the cave, so that Chu Yihan could leave safely. Saint Juan wiped the dust off his face. Chu Yihan won't come this way. If the enemy finds out, we'll be in trouble. As they talked, the sound of footsteps echoed from the cave entrance. There, quick, chase them. Armed men came pouring in. Fortunately, Saint Juan's poison incapacitated them one by one, and they didn't dare to chase too fast. Su Yingxue and Qin Mian successfully descended the mountain. Qin Mian had lost a lot of blood on the way. No amount of blood-clotting grass could fully seal his wounds. Su Yingxue examined his wounds and frowned. I have to suture your wounds first, or you'll bleed to death. Now, Wei Ju was shocked. But we're not safe yet. We could be hunted down at any moment. We should hurry up and escape now. I'll try to move as fast as possible, but you all must stay vigilant. Su Yingxue said firmly. Su Yingxue looked at Qin Mian's gruesome wounds, already taking out the silver needles and thread. She squatted beside Qin Mian, closed her eyes, and entered the Medicine King Valley in her mind. She heated the silver needles, and also gathered plenty of blood-clotting grass. After crushing it, she brought it out. Hey, you rushed in here without even sparing a glance at me. Little Ginseng complained in Su Yingxue's mind. It had been a long time since it had played with Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue hadn't come to chat with it lately, except to gather herbs. It was too boring. I'm busy right now. Su Yingxue's forehead glistened with sweat as she threaded the needle swiftly. They're getting closer. We're surrounded. If you stitch now, we'll all die here. Saint Juan's lightness skill allowed him to dash. He had darted around, exploring the surroundings thoroughly. Everywhere he looked, there were soldiers in black armor. If they didn't run, they would soon become victims under someone else's blade. No. If we don't stitch his wounds, he'll bleed out soon. Su Yingxue applied the crushed blood-clotting grass to Qin Mian's wounds. The pain jolted him awake. Chapter 697. The last needle just now, although he was semi-conscious, Saint Juan's words were not unheard. He grasped Su Yingxue's hand, his face pale but still retaining a sense of pride. Let's go, don't worry about me. I'll protect you to the end. He refused to let go of the sword in his hand. Before his death, he could still confront the enemy for Su Yingxue. Your Highness, what nonsense are you talking? I can't let a patient die in front of me and run away alone. I'll suture your wound as quickly as possible. Qin Mian was strong, but he couldn't resist Su Yingxue's determination. Feeling that he was hindering her, Su Yingxue instructed Wei Ju to help hold Qin Mian down. Normally, Wei Ju wouldn't dare, but now he had to save Qin Mian's life. Hey, Su Yingxue, you're going to sew. There's a mass of people over there. All of them are coming. Saint Juan was frantic. If Su Yingxue hadn't insisted on staying, he would have fled long ago. What did Qin Mian matter to him? However, Su Yingxue's needle was already piercing Qin Mian's body. Her expression was serious, and she wouldn't leave until the stitching was done. Saint Juan cursed in frustration. Damn it! He could only rush forward, using his poison to take down as many enemies as possible. Su Yingxue remained composed amidst the chaotic clash of weapons. Even amidst the deafening battle cries, she remained unfazed. Su Yingxue didn't have time to administer the anesthetic. Qin Mian gritted his teeth and endured silently. The woman before him showed no hint of fear. He was a man, How could he cry out in pain? Yet, the more steadfast Su Yingsha's efforts, the faster his heart raced. Your Highness, if it hurts, take a deep breath. It'll be as quick as possible. Su Yingsha's needle pierced through flesh. 1, 2, 3 stitches, the wound on his chest was soon closed. Su Yingxue shifted her position to Qin Mayan's right leg. Hey, I can't hold on much longer. There are too many people in this army. Saint Wan lamented bitterly. His poison could incapacitate, but it was no match for their overwhelming numbers. Wave after wave of assailants overwhelmed him and Wei Ju. They couldn't hold out much longer. Wei Ju fought desperately to protect Qin Mayan. When an enemy thrust a spear, he risked his own life to block it. Su Yingxue, watch out behind you. A blade came hurtling towards her. Su Yingsha's hands were focused as she worked. When the cold wind howled behind her, she did a backflip, her red clothes fluttering. She spun in the air, landing steadily, but her needle and thread were unaffected. That one needle accurately pierced through Qin Mayan's wound, pulling it together. Wei Ju gasped. Su Yingsha's calmness was unparalleled. Saint Wan breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness you reacted quickly. But who was the one who threw that blade so swiftly? Damn girl, watch out! Blades flew not only from behind, but also from all directions behind Qin Mayan. Your Highness, Miss Su. Wei Ju's eyes widened, his heart racing. They were running out of time. Saint Wan was too late. So many blades were flying towards Su Yingxue. And yet she continued to stitch. One last stitch. Su Yingsha's eyes widened suddenly. After this final stitch, she could finally evade. Chapter 698. I want to die with him. But Su Yingxue knew it was too late. She could almost feel the cold wind brought by the blade behind her, and the slight chill of her torn clothes. Yingxue, watch out! Qin Mayan didn't even have time to pull her into his embrace. However, just as the blade was about to touch her skin, about to pierce through her, bang, 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 a series of loud noises came rushing through. A black shadow passed by, and before anyone could see clearly what it was, all the knives flying towards Su Yingxue were severed. Saint Wan's eyes widened. Damn, what was that? Oh, it was a person. Su Yingxue withdrew her needles and turned around, meeting Ziwei's cold, emotionless eyes. You're back. Her joy overflowed in her words. Ziwei nodded stiffly. Yeah. Where she faced danger, he would be there. There were still countless soldiers surging towards them from all sides. Su Yingxue took a glance and realized. They're the Imperial Guards. The Emperor's men. They were here to kill him. The Imperial Guards? Damn, these people look like they're here for slaughter. It seems they're after Chu Yihan's life. Saint Wan sighed. How did he get involved in this? It was all Su Yingsha's fault. He glared at Su Yingxue. Your assassin is here. Why aren't you running yet? With Ziwei's cover, they could make their escape. Su Yingxue pushed him towards Qin Mayan. You, take the Scarlet Flame King back to the Marquis Manor's medicine hut and treat him. Where are you going? Where are you going? Saint Wan and Qin Mayan spoke in unison. They both could tell Su Yingxue didn't plan to leave with them. Su Yingsha's gaze was resolute. I'm going to find your highness. No. These are the Imperial Guards from the palace. Their numbers are overwhelming, and they're clearly. There were words Qin Mayan didn't say, but Su Yingxue understood. This wasn't just about his duel with Chu Yihan anymore. Someone was trying to take advantage of their duel to cause chaos, and seize the opportunity to get rid of Chu Yihan. I understand the Emperor's intentions, so your highness must stay safe. Otherwise, the Great Wei dynasty and Great Qing dynasty will surely go to war. Su Yingxue stepped in front of Qin Mayan. I've already stitched up your wounds. Saint Wan's medical skills are enough to save your life. Please leave safely, and ensure the peace of the border between the two countries. Your highness, Miss Su is right. How devastated would the eldest princess be if she didn't see you return safely? Your Majesty values you deeply, and she would surely be enraged, sparking a war with the Great Qing dynasty. The people would suffer greatly. Wei Ju knelt before Qin Mayan pleading. Qin Mayan propped himself up with his sword, and prepared for battle. His stern features exuded a commanding presence. Yingxue, many of your reasons make sense, but I only believe in one principle. Even if I fall in battle, I will protect you." His words resonated powerfully, causing everyone to shudder. Saint Juan felt a pang of bitterness. "You're already injured like this, yet you still want to protect me?" He was indeed a tough nut to crack, not yielding even to a sword. But it had to be said that with his determination, he might be able to protect Su Yingxue for a while. Su Yingxue's heart trembled for a moment, but only briefly. She took a deep breath and locked her gaze with Qin Mayan's. "Your Highness, I appreciate your concern, but would you still protect me if I choose to go to Chui Han?" "I vow to do so. What if I choose to stand by his side even in death?" Chapter 699. A tragic way Su Yingxue couldn't help but laugh. "Your Highness, 3 people can't fit in one coffin." Qin Mayan was stunned. Wei Ju was equally dumbfounded. Only Saint Juan almost burst into laughter, his stomach aching from holding it in. Saint Juan thought, when a woman rejects a man, she can be ruthless. Qin Mayan was helped back into his wheelchair, not because he was rejected by Su Yingxue, but because Su Yingxue pleaded with him. "Please take care of yourself, Your Highness. For my sake, don't give the Great Qing dynasty and the Great Wei dynasty a reason to start a war." He responded, "All right." On the surface, Qin Mayan left voluntarily, but he knew his heart was in pieces. He didn't know if he would ever see Su Yingxue again. She wanted to die alongside Chui Han. "Hey, see you at the Marquis Manor. One still want to play with you." Saint Juan was blunt. He jumped onto a tree, waved goodbye to Su Yingxue and flew away. He had no attachment and didn't want to risk his life, but he sincerely hoped Su Yingxue would return alive. Otherwise, his long life would be too damn boring. Ziwei was clearing out the Imperial Guards who wanted to kill Su Yingxue. Even though the Imperial Guards were well-trained and skilled, they stopped in fear when faced with Ziwei's ruthless determination. Su Yingxue walked up to Ziwei and asked, "Can you take me back up the mountain?" Ziwei looked around at the Imperial Guards, but nodded confidently. Yes. Su Yingxue trusted Ziwei and followed him back up the mountain. Since the situation was like this, she couldn't leave Chui Han alone. His injuries were just as severe as Qin Mayan's. As they ascended the mountain, they passed through scenes of carnage, the air thick with the smell of blood. When Su Yingxue stumbled over a corpse, she couldn't help but tremble at the sight of the gruesome death. She had seen death, and she had experienced it herself, but she had never witnessed such brutality. Her worry for Chui Han grew with each step. "Does it hurt?" Ziwei asked, helping her up. But when Ziwei saw her pale face, he stopped in his tracks. There were pursuers behind them, but Ziwei's bloodthirsty aura alone forced them to retreat, afraid to pursue further. Su Yingxue shook her head, her face not looking good, but she insisted on going up the mountain. The higher they climbed, the more gruesome the scene became, with carnage everywhere and the ground beneath their feet stained red with blood. Finally, Su Yingxue spotted Chui Han. His once white clothes were now drenched in red, the original color indistinguishable. Su Yingxue moved to rush forward, but seeing him roar and cut down dozens of foes with a single stroke, she hesitated. He didn't know where Imochi was. Chui Han fought alone, yet the enemy soldiers around him trembled. When he turned to face her, Su Yingxue met his blood-red eyes, her heart skipping a beat. "This isn't good, he's bloodthirsty." Chui Han could sense a familiar presence nearby, but he couldn't stop. All he could think about was killing. The scent of blood in the air excited him, driving him to seek more. "Your Highness," Su Yingxue shouted. But Chui Han seemed oblivious, cutting down any Imperial Guards who approached him in the most brutal manner possible. Someone even attempted to attack him with hidden weapons from afar. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.